"No one wants a fat girl, cowboy, but I can nurse the baby," said the cook. He replied, "Then stay." The twin sons of Dust Star hung low in the sky, casting long, sharp shadows across the dusty plains. The wind carried a smell of metal and burned fuel, and the small town at the edge of the planet's desert glimmered like a mirage. This was Dust Star Outpost, a place where travelers came and went, traders bargained for rare minerals, and rumors traveled faster than the speed of light. On the horizon, a lone rider appeared, kicking up red dust that clung to the air like smoke. The figure wore a wide-brimmed hat, a coat patched with old star maps, and a pair of solar goggles that reflected the dying sunlight. This was Jace Roan, a cowboy of a very different kind. He was known across the outer colonies for his sharp aim, quick mind, and quiet nature. People either trusted him immediately or avoided him entirely, and most preferred the latter. Jace guided his solar steed, a sleek biomechanical horse named Comet, down the main street of the outpost. The townsfolk watched him pass, whispering behind their hands. Children hid behind the crates, fascinated by the horse that shimmered with faint neon light along its joints. Merchants paused mid-sail, and one old man even dropped a pile of trade chips, muttering curses under his breath. The cowboy didn't care. He had come to Dust Star Outpost for a simple purpose: food, fuel, and a night's rest, before taking a contract to transport supplies to a remote colony on Nebula Ridge. But something in the wind, or maybe in the look of the town, made him slow his pace. There was a warmth here hidden under the dust and neon lights, a feeling he hadn't felt in years. Jace dismounted Comet near the creaking saloon. The building's wood was worn and gray, but neon signs flickered above the door, advertising drinks, food, and oddities from the outer colonies. He pushed the door open, and a bell jingled, echoing across the empty room. Inside, the saloon smelled of roasted protein packs, metallic cleaning oil, and a faint hint of something sweet. Behind the counter, a woman was scrubbing a stack of metal pots with determined energy. Her sleeves were rolled up, revealing strong arms, and her hair was tied back with a stained bandana. This was Maggie, the cook of Dust Star Outpost. Maggie was bigger than most expected, plump in a way that made people underestimate her, but her eyes were sharp and intelligent, scanning the room with awareness that no one else seemed to notice. She noticed the cowboy immediately, not just because he was unusual, but because he carried an air of purpose that she rarely saw in outsiders. Jace approached the counter and tipped his hat. "Evening," he said. His voice was calm, low, and carried the faint scratch of someone who had ridden too many long miles. Maggie didn't flinch. She looked him up and down, noting the dust on his coat, the faint energy hum of his belt, and the way he carried himself as if the whole universe weighed lightly on his shoulders. "Evening," she replied. Her tone was flat but curious. "I could use a meal. Something warm." "Protein packs only go so far out here," Jace said. He gestured at the pots. Maggie wiped her hands on her apron. "I cook more than just protein packs, but I'm not fancy, and I don't serve half-hearted meals to strangers who think they're heroes," she said. Jace chuckled softly. "No one thinks I'm a hero. Then maybe you're in the right place. Heroes don't usually come here," Maggie said, and for a moment there was silence. The kind that stretches across space, quiet but full of unspoken thoughts. The cowboy leaned on the counter, studying the woman. "You ever think about leaving this place?" he asked casually, as if it were a trivial matter. Maggie laughed, a soft, dry sound. "Leave? I don't know where I'd go. No one wants a fat girl, cowboy, but I can nurse the baby if you find one," she said, pointing at a small bio cart humming softly in the corner. Inside, a baby of unknown origin slept, wrapped in soft biofabric. Maggie had found the child abandoned months ago and cared for it like it was her own. She had no name for it, only routines, meals, and a watchful eye. Jace studied the infant. He had seen many things in the outer colonies, but this was different. Something about the way Maggie handled the child, gentle yet firm, protective yet relaxed, made him nod. "Then stay," he said, without hesitation. It wasn't a joke. He meant it.
Maggie raised an eyebrow.
"You really mean that?"
"I do."
"You're more than a cook, Maggie. If we're going to survive the trip to Nebula Ridge, I'll need someone like you," Jace said. His tone was quiet, serious, and calm, like a desert wind that tells secrets to those who listen. Maggie's lips curled into the smallest smile. "I don't usually travel with cowboys," she said. "Especially not ones who think they can handle the universe on their own." "I don't. That's why I'm glad you're coming." With the deal made, Maggie set to work preparing a proper meal. Jace watched her, noticing the precision of her movements, the way she balanced flavors and textures even with the limited supplies of Dust Star Outpost. The saloon filled with the smell of roasted protein, spiced vegetables, and a faint sweetness he couldn't name. For the first time in many weeks, Jace felt something he hadn't felt in a long while. Comfort. By the time the twin suns dipped below the horizon, the outpost glowed under neon lights and scattered stars. The townsfolk had grown curious, peeking out from windows and doorways to see the cowboy and the cook who had dared to make a deal. They whispered rumors, some mocking, some admiring, but neither Jace nor Maggie paid attention. They had their own mission now, and it would take every ounce of skill and courage to survive. That night after dinner, Maggie showed Jace the small rooms at the back of the saloon. Simple bunks, solar-powered heaters, and storage crates made the space cozy in its own rough way. Jace dropped his gear and nodded in approval. Comet was stabled outside, energy cells fully charged, ready for the journey ahead. "You think we'll make it?" Maggie asked softly, as she tucked the infant into a small sling strapped around her shoulders. "We'll make it," Jace replied. He didn't say how or what dangers awaited. They both knew the universe was full of surprises. But he felt a sense of trust forming, fragile yet unspoken, like a spark waiting to grow into fire. Outside, the wind carried the scent of burning fuel and alien dust. Somewhere in the distance, a shuttle roared as it left the planet, heading for the stars. Inside the outpost, a cowboy and a cook shared a quiet moment, unaware that this night marked the beginning of something extraordinary, a journey that would test their courage, their intelligence, and their hearts. As the stars appeared one by one in the darkening sky, Maggie and Jace prepared for the days ahead. There would be challenges, strange phenomena, and mysteries of the outer colonies. But for now, they had food, warmth, and a faint glow of possibility. Jace looked at the child, then at Maggie. "Ready for the adventure?" he asked. Maggie smiled, a spark in her eyes. "Always." And with that, the quiet outpost settled into night. Dust Star had seen many travelers, but none quite like these two. The cowboy who rode alone, and the cook who could feed the stars. Together they would face whatever the universe dared to throw at them. This was only the beginning. The morning on Dust Star Outpost was pale and quiet. The twin suns had barely risen above the horizon, painting the dusty streets with shades of pink and orange. Jace Roan checked his gear carefully. Comet, his solar-powered steed, shifted its hooves impatiently, sensing the energy in the air. Today they would begin the journey to Nebula Ridge, a remote mining colony rumored to hold rare crystals essential for life support systems across the outer colonies. Maggie was already busy in the small kitchen at the back of the saloon. She moved quickly and precisely, her fingers deftly packing nutrient gels and energy rations into storage containers. The infant, tucked safely in her sling, cooed softly as she hummed a tune. She paused for a moment and looked at Jace. "You ready for this?" she asked, tying the last knot on a pack of supplies. "As ready as I'll ever be," Jace replied, his hand resting on Comet's harness. "But something tells me this won't be a normal trip." Maggie raised an eyebrow. "Something tells me you always say that." "Because it's usually true," Jace said, smirking. With a whistle, Comet sprang forward, kicking up a cloud of red dust as they left the outpost behind. The desert stretched for miles, interrupted only by jagged rock formations and the occasional neon sign warning travelers of the unstable terrain. The route to Nebula Ridge was not well traveled. Most transporters avoided it, claiming it was too dangerous, too lonely, or haunted by rumors of the Ghost Comet. The Ghost Comet was an odd phenomenon. Once every 10 years, a glowing asteroid would streak across the sector, disappearing into the stars as if it had no weight or direction. Legends said ships that crossed its path vanished, leaving nothing behind. Miners whispered that it was haunted, while traders claimed it was a clever smokescreen for smugglers. Jace didn't believe in ghosts, but he did believe in trouble hiding where people expected nothing. By mid-morning, the first obstacles appeared. The terrain grew rocky and uneven. Small meteorites littered the ground, remnants of a long-past asteroid shower. Comet's hooves clicked against the metallized rocks, producing faint sparks. Maggie held on to the infant and packed her supplies tightly, making sure nothing shifted during the ride. "This terrain is worse than Dust Star," she said, squinting at the jagged cliffs ahead. Jace nodded. "Nebula Ridge is notorious for storms and asteroid fields. We need to keep our speed steady but cautious." The journey was slow but steady. Maggie took the time to explain some of the alien plants and minerals they passed. She had an unusual knowledge of biominerals, knowing which ones could be eaten, which could heal small cuts, and which could generate light when crushed. Jace listened, impressed. Not only was she resourceful, but she had a mind capable of understanding things most colonists ignored. As the sun reached its peak, the sky began to shimmer. The horizon glowed with a pale greenish light. Jace stopped Comet abruptly. "You see that?" he asked, pointing. Maggie leaned forward. In the distance, a glowing object moved slowly across the sky, leaving a faint trail of light. Its shape was uneven, jagged, almost like a crystal, but its glow was unnatural. The ghost comet. "It's beautiful," Maggie whispered, holding the infant close, "but dangerous." "Extremely?" Jace said. "Ships that get too close vanish. Cargo, crew, everything. Nobody knows why." They carefully plotted a route around the comet's path, using old maps and star charts stored in Comet's memory banks. Despite their careful planning, the comet seemed to shift unpredictably, as if it were alive. Jace guided Comet with expert skill, adjusting speed, jumping small gaps in the terrain, and navigating through glowing meteor fragments. Maggie's quick thinking helped stabilize their supplies. She used flexible wires and compact nets to secure the cargo against the shifting motion of the steed, making sure nothing would fall if they hit turbulence. Hours passed, and the comet grew larger in the sky. The light it emitted was eerie, bouncing off the rocks and illuminating the desert in shades of emerald and silver. Maggie couldn't help but feel a thrill. It was dangerous, yes, but also breathtaking. "Do you think it's really haunted?" she asked, glancing nervously at the glowing trail. Jace shook his head. "No ghosts. Just smugglers, maybe a few pirates taking advantage of the fear, and some cosmic coincidence. That's all." Maggie nodded, but kept one eye on the comet. It seemed to hum, a vibration she could almost feel through Comet's hooves. The desert was silent except for the soft hum and the wind rushing past them. Suddenly, the path ahead split. Two routes lay before them. One was faster, but closer to the comet's projected path. The other was longer, but safer. Jace slowed Comet. "Your call," he said. Maggie thought quickly. "We've come this far. Let's take the longer route. Better safe than sorry. We have infants to protect, remember?" Jace nodded approvingly. "Smart choice." They rode the safer path, winding through rocky valleys and over glowing streams of alien minerals. Maggie kept the infant calm, humming softly while Jace scanned the skies for any anomalies. They passed clusters of abandoned outposts, relics of failed settlements, all silent under the eerie light of the comet. As night fell, the twin moons rose, casting a gentle blue glow over the desert. The comet had shifted closer, its light now bathing the landscape in an otherworldly shine. Jace decided it was time to rest. He guided Comet to a small cave partially hidden behind jagged rocks. It was tight but safe, and the warmth from geothermal vents kept the temperature comfortable. Maggie prepared a simple meal, reconstituted protein packs with fresh water from her portable filtration device. They ate in silence, the infant sleeping quietly between them. "I didn't expect this journey to be thrilling," Maggie admitted, glancing at Jace. "Life's full of surprises," Jace replied. "You just have to be ready for them." Maggie smiled, realizing she had never met someone who trusted her so easily, nor someone who accepted her as she was. It was a strange comfort, and for the first time in years, she felt the excitement of something bigger than the dusty saloon she had always called home. In the quiet night, the comet's glow pulsed slowly, almost like a heartbeat. Maggie watched, entranced. "It's beautiful, but I still feel nervous." "Good," Jace said with a grin. "Nervousness keeps you alive. Too much confidence can get you lost in these parts." They slept in shifts, taking turns keeping watch. Jace's instincts were sharp, and Maggie's creativity and problem-solving ensured they avoided any obstacles or surprises the comet might bring. By dawn, they were back on the trail, moving steadily toward Nebula Ridge. As the day progressed, the comet's glow faded behind them, but its legend remained. Jace and Maggie had not encountered any ships or danger yet, but the hum of anticipation stayed in the air. The journey ahead promised challenges, mysteries, and perhaps opportunities that neither of them could imagine. By the time they reached the outer reaches of Nebula Ridge, the landscape had changed. The plains of Dust Star gave way to jagged metallic cliffs, neon crystals jutting from the ground like frozen lightning. The colony appeared small but industrious, with hover wagons and miners moving efficiently across the terrain. Maggie's eyes widened at the sight. "It's alive," she whispered. "All this mining, all this movement, it's incredible. And the colony has secrets, Maggie, things people don't talk about." Together, they entered the colony, blending in with miners and traders. Maggie kept the infant close, aware of the curious eyes that followed them. Jace noticed the subtle tension in the colony's air. Miners spoke in hushed tones about missing shipments and strange lights at night. It reminded him of the comet, but something more tangible lurked here. "Looks like we're about to find out what," Jace muttered. Maggie gripped the infant tighter, excitement and caution in her gaze. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. She realized she was no longer just a cook. She was part of an adventure bigger than she had ever imagined, and for the first time, she felt alive in a way the dusty outpost could never give her. And so, under the twin moons of Dust Star and the distant glow of the fading ghost comet, Jace Roan and Maggie prepared for the next chapter of their journey, unaware that the colony held mysteries that would test their courage, cleverness, and trust in one another. The colony at Nebula Ridge was alive with quiet industry, and hover wagons glided over the jagged crystal cliffs, miners in protective suits moved swiftly, and robotic drones scanned the terrain with a soft hum. The glowing neon crystals cast long shadows, painting the miners' faces in strange colors, green, blue, and sometimes faint red. Jace Roan and Maggie stepped carefully into the colony, blending in with the workers, yet their presence did not go unnoticed. Jace scanned the area with practiced eyes. Something was off. The colony looked busy, yes, but there was a nervous energy in the air. Miners whispered in small groups, casting glances at the edges of the cliffs where old, abandoned equipment sat half buried in glowing dust. Maggie noticed it too. "I don't like this," she said softly, adjusting the sling that held the infant close to her chest. "It feels too quiet, like everyone's waiting for something." "Exactly," Jace replied. "And when people wait for something in colonies like this, it's usually trouble." They moved deeper into the colony, passing by a storage depot filled with hover crates and cargo containers. Maggie's eyes caught a flicker of movement near one of the older storage bays. A small panel had been left slightly open, revealing tiny blinking lights. Curious, she leaned closer. "Jace," she whispered, "someone's hiding something here. Look at this, these aren't normal storage panels. They're modified, probably to hide shipments or something else." Jace nodded. "Stay calm. Let's figure out what it is before we make a scene." He stepped forward carefully, scanning the area. Whatever it is, they don't want it found. Could be valuable or dangerous. Maggie's curiosity flared. She had always been clever, always thinking one step ahead. She knew she could help. "I can check it," she said. With nimble fingers, she opened the panel fully, revealing rows of small cryobays, each containing a tiny infant in biofabric. Jace froze. "Infants?" he whispered, his voice tight. "They're abandoned," Maggie said softly, looking over the rows. "Someone brought them here and left them in cryosleep. They could be from an illegal experiment or some illegal transport gone wrong, but they're alive." The sound of distant boots made them tense. Miners were moving nearby, their eyes focused on their work. Maggie knew they couldn't act openly. They needed a plan. She looked at Jace. "We can't leave them here," she said. "If anyone finds out later, these babies won't survive." Jace nodded slowly, the gears in his mind turning. "We need a way to get them out without being noticed." "You have ideas?" Maggie smiled faintly. "I've got ideas. It won't be easy, but we can do it if we're careful. I can feed them and keep them stable, and you can keep watch and get us past the colony's security drones." "Then let's do it," Jace said. His voice was firm, steady. There was no hesitation, only focus. Over the next hour, they moved carefully, taking crates and small supplies to camouflage their actions. Maggie worked quickly, connecting nutrient gels and portable oxygen packs to the cryobays to keep the infants safe during transport. Jace kept watch at the edges of the storage bay, alert to the faintest sound of approaching miners or drones. Time passed slowly, every second filled with tension. Maggie's hands were steady, but her heart raced. She thought of each infant, wondering who their parents might have been, what mistakes had led them here, and how lucky they were to have someone who cared. Jace noticed her quiet determination, and he realized how remarkable she was. Not just clever, but compassionate, brave, and unwavering. As the final cryobay was secured, a distant alarm buzzed softly. A drone had detected movement near the storage depot. Maggie froze. "Stay calm," Jace whispered. "We stick to the shadows. Comet can handle the terrain outside, and we'll move fast. Don't panic." Maggie nodded, clutching the infant tightly. They moved quickly, weaving through crates and shadows. Jace signaled her toward a narrow passage leading to the outer cliffs. It was risky, steep rocks, glowing mineral streams, and unstable surfaces, but it offered the only escape route. Once outside, Comet waited, its engines humming softly. The steed's solar-powered hooves glimmered in the neon light. Maggie climbed onto Comet carefully, holding the infant securely. Jace followed, his hand steady on her shoulder for balance. "Hold on tight," he said. The ride began slowly, then quickly as Comet navigated the jagged cliffs. Maggie used every ounce of her skill to keep the infant stable, adjusting the slings and nutrient packs. Jace guided the steed, leaping small gaps, avoiding glowing mineral streams, and dodging small security drones that buzzed overhead. Maggie's heart raced, not from fear, but from adrenaline and determination. She hummed softly to calm the infant, the gentle sound cutting through the quiet hum of the colony's machines. Jace glanced back, impressed at her skill. "You're amazing," he said quietly, without taking his eyes off the path. "Not amazing," Maggie replied, eyes forward. "Just necessary." The neon glow faded behind them as Comet slowed. Maggie carefully examined each infant. They were all stable, the nutrient packs and oxygen functioning perfectly. She smiled faintly. "They're safe," she said. "For now." "We did it. I didn't think anyone could pull this off." Maggie looked at him, a hint of pride in her eyes. "We did it. Together." The night sky above Nebula Ridge was filled with stars, brighter and closer than Maggie had ever seen. The twin moons reflected in the neon crystals below, creating a magical, almost dreamlike landscape. For a moment, the danger of the colony felt distant. The infants cooed softly, and Maggie hummed again, a melody that carried across the plateau. Jace sat beside her on Comet, watching her carefully. "You know," he said, "I thought this journey was about cargo and contracts, but it's more than that now. It's about people. It's about life." Maggie smiled faintly, adjusting the infant in her sling. "I never thought I'd be a hero," she said softly. "But maybe being a hero isn't about fighting or shooting. Maybe it's just about doing the right thing when no one's watching." Jace nodded slowly. "Exactly. And you're one of the best I've ever seen." They rested briefly on the plateau, the infants safe, the colony behind them, and the stars stretching infinitely ahead. The ghost comet had faded from the sky, leaving only its legend in a faint glow on the horizon. Maggie thought about the journey ahead, the long ride back, the challenges that still awaited them, and the possibility of more mysteries in the outer colonies. "Where do we go from here?" Maggie asked quietly, watching the stars. "Home," Jace said. "Back to Dust Star Outpost. But first, we survive the journey, and we keep these kids safe. Nothing else matters right now." Maggie nodded. She felt a quiet sense of purpose, one that had been missing in her life for years. She was no longer just a cook. She was a protector, a clever thinker, and a partner to a cowboy who trusted her completely. And for the first time she realized that this trust, this partnership, was more valuable than anything she had ever imagined. The two of them mounted Comet again, ready to ride through the alien desert past glowing mineral streams and jagged cliffs. The infants were secure, the cargo stable, and the stars above promised new adventures, challenges, and discoveries. As they rode into the night, Maggie hummed her soft tune, the same one that had carried the infants to safety. Jace kept his eyes forward, alert and steady, guiding Comet with precise movements. Together they moved through the alien landscape, a cowboy and a cook, a team that had faced danger, mystery, and uncertainty, and had emerged stronger. The colony of Nebula Ridge faded behind them, its secrets still hidden in the shadows. But Jace and Maggie didn't look back. Their mission was clear, their hearts steady, and their resolve unshaken. Under the twin moons of Dust Star and the fading glow of distant stars, they rode into the unknown, ready for whatever the universe had in store. And for the first time, Maggie felt truly alive, knowing that she had made a difference, that she mattered, and that her journey was only beginning. The ride back to Dust Star Outpost was long and quiet, but it was not without its beauty. The desert stretched endlessly under the twin suns, and the night skies shimmered with distant stars. Jace Roan guided Comet steadily across the jagged cliffs and glowing mineral streams, while Maggie kept the infants calm and secure in her sling and makeshift carriers. Each of them felt the weight of responsibility, but also the thrill of accomplishment. They had rescued the infants, outsmarted the colony's secrets, and survived a journey most would not dare attempt. "Do you ever get tired of this?" Maggie asked quietly, her voice almost lost in the hum of Comet's hooves. "Of riding across deserts, solving problems, always being on alert? Don't you want a normal life sometimes?" Jace chuckled softly. "Normal life isn't really in my skill set, but moments like this, I wouldn't trade them for anything." Maggie smiled faintly, realizing he meant it. There was a calm in his tone, a steady presence that she had come to rely on. She glanced at the infant in her arms, cooing softly, and felt a warmth in her chest she hadn't known she could feel. As they approached the outskirts of Dust Star Outpost, the twin suns began to set, casting long shadows across the desert. The outpost, small yet bustling, glimmered with neon lights and the faint hum of energy engines. Dust Star seemed smaller now, almost comforting, a place that had once felt ordinary but now felt like home. "We're almost there," Jace said softly. "Get ready. People will notice us. These kids will draw attention." Maggie adjusted the slings and secured the last nutrient packs. "I can handle it. They're safe, and that's what matters." They rode into the town carefully, blending with the few late traders and miners still moving about. At first, no one seemed to notice, but as they approached the saloon, whispers spread quickly. News of the cowboy returning, accompanied by a cook carrying several infants, traveled faster than the wind. Dust Star Outpost had seen many strange travelers, but none quite like these two. Inside the saloon, the familiar scent of roasted protein packs and cleaning oil greeted them. Maggie set the infants down in a secure corner with soft blankets she had packed earlier. Comet was stabled outside, steam rising from his mechanical joints as he adjusted to the cooler night air. The townsfolk slowly gathered, curious and cautious. They had heard stories of Nebula Ridge, of missing shipments and strange happenings. Now, seeing Jace and Maggie with the rescued infants, they realized the stories were true. An older miner, leaning heavily on a glowing walking stick, approached cautiously. Did you really bring them back?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. Jace nodded. "Every one of them." Maggie added softly, "They were abandoned, left to die if no one cared. But now they're safe, and they'll stay that way." The miner's eyes softened, a faint smile forming. You've done more than anyone expected. You've saved lives." Maggie felt a warmth spread through her chest. She had never been praised like this before, not for cooking, not for work, not for anything. And yet, here she was, recognized for her courage, her intelligence, and her care. Over the next few days, the outpost adapted to their presence. The infants were given proper care, small sleeping areas, and nutrient packs prepared carefully by Maggie. Jace handled logistics, making sure the town's resources were balanced and that the newcomers had what they needed. Despite the attention, Maggie found a quiet satisfaction in her work. She had always loved cooking, organizing, and helping others, but now she felt a deeper sense of purpose. The infants' laughter and coos filled the saloon, bringing a sense of life that had been missing for too long. One evening, as the twin moons rose over Dust Star, Jace and Maggie sat outside the saloon watching the stars. The desert was calm, quiet, except for the soft hum of Comet and the distant chatter of townsfolk. Maggie hummed softly, the same tune she had used to calm the infants during their journey. "You ever think about leaving again?" Jace asked, breaking the silence. Maggie shook her head. "Not anymore. I've found something worth staying for. These kids, this town, you." She glanced at him, feeling a spark she hadn't noticed before. Jace turned slightly, meeting her gaze. "Funny thing, I thought I was just hiring a cook. But I got a partner instead. Someone I can trust with my life and someone I want by my side." Maggie smiled softly, her heart swelling. "Then I guess we're stuck with each other." "Stuck isn't the word I'd use," Jace said, his eyes reflecting the twin moons. "I'd call it lucky." The next morning, Dust Star Outpost held a small celebration. Townsfolk brought gifts, simple yet thoughtful, packs of clean water, extra nutrient rations, and colorful blankets for the infants. Children gathered fascinated by the stories of the journey, the glowing comet, and the daring rescue. Maggie watched, smiling as the infants played safely, their tiny hands exploring the textures of their new home. Jace leaned against the saloon wall, arms crossed, watching the scene with quiet satisfaction. He had faced danger countless times, but this, saving lives without violence, felt different. It felt meaningful. "You did good," he said quietly to Maggie. "We did good," she corrected, laughing softly. "And we'll keep doing good." For them, as the sun set, casting long orange and pink streaks across the desert, Maggie and Jace prepared for the night. The infants slept, exhausted, but safe. Comet rested, energy cells humming softly, and for the first time in a long time, the two adventurers felt truly at home. Maggie looked at the horizon, at the fading glow of Nebula Ridge far in the distance. "Do you think there'll be more adventures?" she asked, her voice soft. Jace smiled faintly. "Oh, there will always be adventures. The universe is full of them. But now we have a home, and we have each other, and that makes all the difference." Maggie nodded, feeling a sense of peace she had never known before. She was no longer just a cook. She was a guardian, a partner, and a hero in her own right. And as long as she had Jace and the infants by her side, she knew they could face whatever came next. The twin moons rose high, bathing Dust Star Outpost in their soft glow. The desert was calm, peaceful, and alive with possibility. Maggie hummed her tune one last time for the night, and Jace rested beside her, their hearts steady, their purpose clear. For the first time, they were not just surviving. They were thriving. Together, under the stars, among the dusty plains and neon lights, they had found something rare. A home, a mission, and a sense of belonging that no desert, no comet, and no colony could ever take away. And as the night stretched on, with the infants breathing softly in their slings, Maggie whispered to Jace, "No one wanted me before, but now I think we all belong here." Jace took her hand, squeezing it gently. And I couldn't agree more. The stars twinkled, the desert hummed softly, and Dust Star Outpost slept peacefully, knowing that in this corner of the universe, courage, cleverness, and compassion had triumphed. This was their story, not one of battles or weapons, but of heart, hope, and the quiet magic of doing what was right. And it was only the beginning.